So I've got Elke here. How are you doing, Elke? You all right?
Hello. Yeah, I'm doing fine, thank you.
It's amazing to see
Oh,
you, and it's been a few months since we've spoke, but you've kindly agreed to come on today and just do a little talk with me because we've got some amazing insights to share about your journey when you're on the coaching program, and I think it's going to be really beneficial for people to hear how you once struggled with your relationship with food and what you had to go through and learn and understand in order to turn it around. And now you're kind of going off on your own and you're smashing it, you're smashing life. And we're just talking before we press record about how well you're doing and the things that you've learned and the things that you've kept up. So before we kind of talk about the things you achieved and what you accomplished, let's kind of build a bit of a picture about what was going on before you started your personal development journey, before you decided to invest in yourself and want to work on your relationship with food. So before you kind of found the program, before you found working with me, what would you say your relationship with food was like? What were kind of the struggles you had around your eating habits, and what were some of the things you tried before that just weren't working for you?
well, my food relationship has always been quite bad. Restricted as a child by my mother. Um, Food was always like a punishment. If you didn't behave, you didn't get your food, that sort of thing. And in later life, obviously, family and divorce and all that sort of thing. So I started back again. I started then Weight Watchers and Slimming World, and I did all right for a while, and then I fell back into this. And any upset, any personal upset would bring me back to food. Um, when I found you, I think I was very, very low because I'd lost my husband, as you know. And I just needed somebody in person who could advise me and can listen, actually. You listen to my story and then build a program around that one.
Yeah.
That was so different to Slimming World and Weight Watchers. Yeah.
Well, we can certainly talk a little bit about like Slimming World and Weight Watchers because I'm not necessarily against all of those things. But again, the thing that I say, Algar, is, and many people listening will relate to this. Things like
Yeah.
Slimming World, Weight Watchers, they're great for learning about food and portion control and things like that, but they don't really address the whole using food as a coping mechanism, do they?
That's right. That's absolutely right. I mean, we sat actually in these groups on the day of weighing and we were eating. And that is so, uh, in hindsight, that's so bloody stupid, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is really stupid sitting there, getting weight. Oh, yes, I lost 2 pounds, and then eating.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And that, yeah, that was just waste of time, waste of money.
Yeah, so it's the whole thing about using food as a coping mechanism, and you kind of said there
Absolutely.
you can relate back to like childhood, how maybe food was used as like a reward or a punishment, or anytime you felt a certain emotion, you realize you turn back to food, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't quite realize. They think their eating habits is all about motivation, willpower, more dieting, weight loss, that sort of stuff. But if food has been a long-standing coping mechanism, you've got to kind of go back to the past a little bit and figure out, okay, when did I first started using food? And again, you kindly opened up to me literally where you are sitting right now about a year ago or two, and you were like, yeah, I can realize how my relationship with food is, it actually started in childhood. So would you mind
Yeah.
maybe sharing a little bit about that? You don't have to go into the ins and outs, but when you first realized, yeah, that was when I was definitely using food as a coping mechanism. Would you mind
Yeah.
sharing a little bit about that?
Well, I worked in the city. I was 16 and I started working in a bakery. And I remember it so well because when we emptied the van to put all the stuff what was delivered from the bakery to the shop, uh, um, donuts, donuts on a tray, right? They were still warm. And I was folding this donut in half and then again into a quarter. And I shoved that right in my mouth because I was upset from maybe my mum in the morning, no breakfast. You get out, get out. I have no time for you. And these donuts, every morning I did that because every morning I was sent out to work with no breakfast. I had to make my own way there. And my mum used food as a punishment. So if you didn't behave to her standard, no food. So it was always used against me, actually.
Yeah.
And that's from very early on, when my sister was born, actually, in 1966. So I'm 67 now. And it took me until I was 65 to meet you to get my head around food. All this time, can't say 50 years, over 50 years.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. And I don't know if you've read my book, right, Elke, the Why You Overeat book.
Yep,
Yeah.
I know.
So
Yeah,
obviously I use pseudonyms in here. So the names that I use of stories from my clients, they're not their real names, just to protect their identity. But there's a
yeah,
story in the book called Betty, right? But she also told me a horrible story about how she realized after doing the program with us, or during the program, the origin point for where her relationship with food and emotion eating started was when she was about 11 years old, and she told us a horrible story, and her mum kind of stripped her of her clothes and put her down to her underwear, made her stand in front of the mirror, and she berated her for how she looked, and she said, you'll never find a man, or no one will ever love you if you look like this. You need to sort it out." And stories like that unfortunately I've heard so many times, that this emotional eating started in childhood as a result of, I don't want to say the word emotional abuse, but I don't know what else I can label it as. The dynamics with your parents in childhood and how food was interjected with that can become the origin story for many people who struggle with their eating habits. And like you said, it took you like 50 years to realize that, didn't you?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely,
It's more
definitely.
common than you think. And I think a lot of people who are struggling with their eating habits right now, they haven't quite linked it back to their past, and they don't realize that this has always been an issue. And it might be the result of possibly some kind of trauma. Would you agree?
Yeah. I agree totally. I think if my mum wouldn't have been like she wasn't like that only to me, she was like that with my dad. So this little woman would punish my dad, no food when he came from work. He worked at VW all his life, and no food for him ready. She didn't only do it to me, she did it to my dad,
Mhm.
because I think my dad and me got on really well, and she didn't like that.
Mhm.
So if she hit me once, and I hit her back, and she fell. And my mum come out with um, a little sweeping brush, hand brush, and she braid me. And she says, "Get away, get away." So I rode my bike about 3 miles to my auntie, told her everything, and she rang then up the neighbour. And so communication, and they said, "Don't send her back, don't want her back."
Mhm.
So I stayed at my auntie's. And the food, amazing. Morning food, dinner time food, evening, you had food. It wasn't used against you, and it was amazing. So
Yeah.
that's when I realized that that's not right. My mum wasn't right. She had not the right to do that.
Yeah, so the way you explain that, my mind's going. I can totally see how you go from one dynamic and how food is related to that, and then all of a sudden you go
Yeah,
into this other relationship dynamic where there's food in abundance, and you almost
yeah,
went from that all or nothing, where food was almost like
yeah,
scarce or used as a punishment, or all of a sudden now it's a reward system. And I also hear a lot of clients who work with me. They say, when I become like a teenager, or I got my first job, or I become a young adult, when you're a child, you don't have your own money, so you're not really in control of your
yeah,
own food and what you buy and what you have. You're kind of at the
yeah,
mercy of your parents. And I think a lot of people realize that, yeah, because of maybe some things in my childhood, by the time I become an adult, my very first coping mechanism was, well, now I can eat all the things I was maybe deprived of.
yeah,
So it's a scarcity thing around food. And again, it just so happens you ended up working in a baker's where food is readily available. So I can
absolutely.
see I can see how that become a coping mechanism. So
Yeah.
when was the moment? I know you said, "Oh, it took you 50 years to figure out," but there might have been moments before that. When was the moment that you realized, like, I am an emotional eater and something kind of has to change?
Many a time. Many a time you sit down, or I sat down and thought, well, why am I doing this? I'm doing myself no good. Um, Clothes didn't fit anymore, and um, but I didn't know where to turn to, what to do, because that is the biggest problem. I mean, I lived in Germany at the time, didn't I? So things are very, very different there to what they are here, and I don't know. It brings it all back, actually.
Yeah. Oh, it's certainly a hard one, and there'll not be maybe one instance.
Yeah,
There'll be multiple, but like you said, if there was no help available at the time, and I think we've spoke about this before, like mental health hasn't really been a thing except the last
no,
10 years or so, right? So if we're going back to the 70s, 80s, 90s, even the 2000s, there was no
Yeah.
help out there, even now, if you
No,
just go to the doctor, it's just like, oh, have you tried going on a diet, or, have you tried taking these medications, or have you tried eating less? Like, they'll not really talk about the root cause or even the psychology around eating habits, will they?
that's it. That's it. I mean, I was lucky to have my auntie there. My auntie was fighting my corner, but then again, I had to go back home after I've been at hers. And my mum was just horrendous. She got violent and withdrew food.
Mm,
That
yeah.
was her coping mechanism, I think.
Yeah, 100%. But I always say this to my clients, and you would have heard me say this on Q&As. A lot of you guys in the program, you are what I call cycle breakers. You're the people who maybe went through some stuff in your family and through the generations, but then because of the education and the self-awareness, you didn't pass that down. You realized, okay, I've went through this for a reason. I have to learn how to not pass this on. And even if that was
Mm.
unconscious to a time, you're able to look back and go, okay, well, maybe I went through this, but I certainly didn't pass that down. And that's valid. I think a lot of people are cycle breakers and they don't even know it. So that's a really valid point. So
Mm.
now I want to talk about the turning point. So let's think about, I think was it early 2024 you first reached out to me and you joined the course and then the
Yeah.
one-to-one program. What were some of the things going on in your life at that time that finally made you go, right, I'm gonna have to get some help. I'm gonna work with Sam. I'm gonna join his program. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. What was going on at that point? What was the turning point?
The turning point was that I lost my husband in 2020. And things in my private life weren't looking very good, and everything just was too much for me. And then I came across Sam Gibson somehow. I don't know how. Facebook, I don't know. And I thought this guy is talking actually sense, you know.
Yeah,
And
it
that's when
probably
I
would have been
decided,
the videos I used to do on Facebook. When I used to do the walk and talks on my phone.
yeah,
I need to get back to them actually, but yeah, it's probably that's how most people found me though. I just used to post
yeah,
videos, especially during the
yeah,
lockdowns and then a few years after. And I remember when your messages and we're doing your first call and everything like that. And we can talk soon about what happened in that year working with me. But yeah, I think the point I want to drill home is you mentioned there was for often people won't actually do anything about their eating habits until other areas of their life start getting really bad.
yeah,
And you realize that, oh, because of these other areas, whether it's relationships or job stuff or mental health or other things that's going on, you realize like, yeah, I'm actually using food to cope from these problems. So I've got to kind of figure out a plan where I work on my eating habits, but I can't just go on a diet. I've got to fix these areas of my life as well.
yeah,
So you were saying there was these voids or these stresses going on outside, and I think that's the time when a lot of people start hearing me. They might have followed me for a while on Facebook, but it's not until they reach that like rock bottom moment that they go, actually, I think this is
yeah,
right. I'm using food to cope because of the stresses in my life.
yeah,
So,
that's true.
so I've got a good question for you here because you probably seen me for a while before you decided to commit. So what was some of the initial hesitations that you had before you were like, actually, I think I need to do this?
Hesitation. Obviously, you are a brilliant guy. You have got the expertise, but it was a money thing. And that's a sad thing because money shouldn't come into your health. But with me, it had to. Um, and then I just thought, well, if I don't do anything, carry on like I did, then I would spend the money I would spend on Sam on food. So getting bigger and bigger and bigger uh, and unhealthier. And that had to stop. And that was then the point where I said, well, I'm spending money willy-nilly on rubbish food. I might as well invest that into a man who really knows what he's talking about.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's,
that's a good point, and I totally hear you. Again, I remember the first time before I ever invested in a coach. It was like a mindset coach for male business owners, and straight
mm,
away, I mentally, I guess, unconsciously seen it as, oh, cost. Oh God, I can't afford that. It's like
yeah,
£1,000 for a program. I can't do that. I haven't got £1,000. But then I
yeah,
realized, okay, well, how much time am I wasting first of all, and then what am I spending my money on elsewhere that
yeah,
that I'm not actually accounting for? And when it comes to like eating habits, emotional eating is not free unless you've got this sugar daddy who's paying for everything for you, quite
yeah,
literally
yeah,
paying for your
yeah,
sugar. Then food costs money, and if you think, well,
yeah,
if I'm overeating and I'm not saying this was you, but a lot of people I spoke to, they're like, yeah, I'm getting 2 or 3 takeaways a week, or I'm going to the coffee shop and buying coffees and
Definitely.
cakes, or I'm coming home from the corner shop from work and I'm spending £5, £10 on food. £5 a day doesn't seem like a lot, but if there's what, £30, 30 days in a month, £5 a
Yeah.
day on just extra stuff. Well, that's nearly £100 just on little bits and bobs. And when you work out, okay, coaching's around about 100 and odd pound a month. Okay, actually, it's not a cost, it's an investment, isn't it? If you think about, well, what am I struggling with? Emotional eating. That costs me money. How much am I overeating by? Could I save that and spend it on a solution to the eating? Well, in a weird way, it actually saves you money long term, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And on top of it, you have the health benefits, haven't you? Because, I mean, with joining you and meeting you in South Shields, um, I learned a lot. And then with losing weight, with changing my entire attitude, obviously I could change my wardrobe. So Sam Gibson has actually helped me not only with my food, but also with my taste in clothes and stuff like that. So it's a
Uh,
multi thing.
I do crack that joke sometimes about, yeah, this program's not a cost, it's an investment, but I'm going to be
Absolutely.
yeah, it's going to cost you money in brand new clothes because you're going to need an entire new wardrobe because they're not going to fit you anymore. So you will have you will have to spend some money on clothes. But getting into that, obviously we talked about the in-person events, and that is a part of the program. Obviously, you came to multiple, and it was lovely to meet you in person. But before you did any of that, let's say when you first joined, you're like, right, I'm going to go for this. What did you think the coaching was going to involve? So I think a lot of people think that they're just going to be told what to eat, but really it's so much more than that, isn't it?
Uh, well, with you, it's very, very different because you are not only clever in nutrition and stuff. It's you helping my mental state. I was really, really suffering with the loss of Bob and with family issues and stuff. You don't only address the food, you address everything. I can tell you anything, and you listen to it and then give me your take on things. So you are a problem solver in many other areas on top of eating.
Yeah. Yeah, you remember, I like to use the analogy, the iceberg analogy. So everyone knows the story of the Titanic, right? So I always
Yeah.
say, like, what sunk the Titanic? It wasn't the bit that was sticking out the water. If you've watched the film with Leonardo DiCaprio in, right, the captain,
Yeah.
the captain thinks he's got out the way, so he's like, right, yeah, and they're like, did we hit it? And then it's after the pass it, it's the stuff
Absolutely.
underneath that gets it, you know. So
Yeah.
emotional eating or your eating habits, that's the tip of the iceberg. And I know this as a coach. So the process that I use, it's like let's 50% focus on habits. So that's your eating, your organization, exercise. You know me, I do all
Mm.
of that as well. But then we'll have
Yeah.
conversations around the other stuff, like you said, it's the lifestyle stuff, it's the past traumas, it's the relationship stresses, it's the ongoing challenges you've got with conflicts, it's the mindset stuff, it's the emotions. And for me, when I struggle with my relationship with food, obviously I talk about it a lot in chapter 1 and 2 of the book. It was actually an anxiety response for me. If I wanted to stop emotional eating, which I was at the time, I was seriously binge eating about 10 years ago and I didn't quite know how to stop. I realized I had to get to the bottom of what was causing my anxiety, and then I had to create some strategies to deal with the anxiety, and then the food solved itself. So that's what the
Yeah.
coaching is that we do. And I think the biggest surprise people get, which you probably got, was, oh, this is so much more than eating habits. My eating is just a
Yeah.
symptom of all this other stuff. So when you work
Yeah.
on the other stuff, the eating habit gets better, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The relationship with you know who um, that dissolved where I went back before you and then finished and back. And through you, I've learned um, not when we finished um, to stuff myself full again because that's what I used to do. So I had an upset with you know who and down the crisps, the chocolate, anything. I mean, even things I didn't like. And this is the thing that always I can't get my head around still. Why would I eat things I don't actually like? I didn't like the taste of it. I didn't like the texture of it, yet I did eat it. So why? You ask yourself, why did you do that for all those years?
Yeah. It's almost like an
And that way you,
autopilot thing. You don't realize you're doing
yeah,
it. I think it's the hand to mouth. So there's a sensory aspect of food, isn't it? Whether it's like
Yeah,
you watch telly and you're just putting crisps in your mouth, or you're really
yeah,
stressed and you're eating in the car, or you can't sleep and you're just mindlessly eating. It's not even about the
yeah.
taste. It's not even about the oh, I like this food. Sometimes people are just doing it to push feelings down. And sometimes
That's
you
yeah,
do it so long that you don't even know that's what you're doing.
absolutely agree. That's what I did all those years. All those years. I can't believe, and the amount of money, coming back to the fee for a coach, the amount of money I spend by overeating and binge eating. I mean, we are not only talking a bag of crispy and there, we're talking about a full 10 pack of crisps.
Oh, I've been
You
there
know,
myself. Yeah,
all you know.
I've been known to eat 24 bags of Monster Munch in one sitting. I've been there myself.
Well, oh yeah, Monster Munch flaming hot, absolutely
Oh yeah,
delicious. You know,
they
and
are,
then
aren't
wash
they?
it down with some nice Pepsi Max or something. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, been there, done that. And nowadays, I can laugh about it now, but I did cry about it a lot. That I let myself go that much. I felt I was a failure
Mm,
because I couldn't regulate my own emotions. I let everything what was even happening outside my house affect my eating, and that I can't understand anymore.
yeah.
That's through the coaching program. I mean, I learned a heck of a lot.
So that's
I've
perfect
learned a lot.
to go on to the transformation now. So we've covered kind of what life was going on, a bit of history, a bit of in the background, what you were struggling with. And then when you first started, you realize this is so much more than just food. It's about emotions, it's about mindset, it's about using food as a coping response. You now started to get into that transformation. So what you said there, I want to touch on. You said I learned how to regulate my emotions. That is what healing from your relationship with food is, and I
Yeah,
guess losing weight is. A lot of us can look at the weight on our body and say, "Oh, well, I'm clearly overeating. I just need to stop." Okay, but why did you get in that point? You are using food for some sort of comfort, right? So we've got to remove the emotional baggage before the physical baggage changes. So when you went on that journey, Elke, and I remember it was only last year or the last 12 months, I watched you go through this. You got better at dealing with setbacks, dealing with challenges. Would get on a phone call and you'd say, Sam, this, situation's happened and, how do I deal with it? And then I'd say, right, challenge this, do that. Then you'd report back to me and say, right, I feel so much better. I've set that boundary, or I've said no, or I've let go of this person in my life who was causing stress. And then I was encouraging you to take up hobbies and do self-care. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not getting as stressed anymore. I'm noticing my eating habits are getting
yeah,
better. And that's when the weight loss starts, isn't it? It's when you start dealing
yeah,
with the mind.
yeah. Yeah, you see, this is what I never understood. When you go to these WWs and Slimming World, you jump on the scales. Oh yes, a pound less, and then you sit there stuffing your face full. Now it's I used to jump on the scales every day, every morning, and oh God, I've put on weight. Oh well, now it's over. Now get it down again, and I don't know. Everything has changed totally. Now, food, I look at food. I mean, it's on the table is some food. And in the old days, I would have just grabbed it and stuffed it down and no reason behind why I would do it. I
So would you
didn't need a reason actually to do it. Or I did think there was no reason. There was something there, but I couldn't explain why.
So would you say now one of the main transformations you've had, the mental transformation, is you just have so much awareness around food, and that if you are
Yeah,
feeling a certain emotion, you have to deal with the emotion first. You don't just turn straight to food, and you're able to be around food and not feel pulled or compelled to eat it now. You can be that authentic
yeah,
eater. Remember that when I talked about that on the program? The
yeah,
authentic eater is someone who can say yes to any item of food without the guilt and shame, but they can also
yeah,
say, well, I don't want to eat that just because it's there. I don't need to. So
yeah.
would you say that's the main transformation you've made around food? You just have a greater level of awareness and you no longer use it as a coping mechanism.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if I see something, I don't need it. I can leave it. I keep myself busy. That's one of the main things. I mean, I'm widowed. I'm old. I'm an old age pensioner now. So lots and lots of time on my hand. But instead of just sitting there and grabbing the first thing that's there and stuff it down, I keep myself busy. So I've just today, I went on my walk. I go walking every day. Went on my walk. and went into a shop in Pickering, where I left some wax wraps. The boss was there, so I said, "Hey, what about these wax wraps? Oh, can you do me some? Can you do me some? I need some." You know. So on my walk, I came back home, and straight away, instead of sitting down and stuffing like I would do, I started creating these wraps again.
I love that.
So keeping busy. That's
That's
the
really
main
great.
thing.
I always say this. You would have heard me say this, Elke. Emotional eaters are often creative people who are not being creative enough. And you
Yeah,
mentioned you make these wax wrap things, and you kind of give me some for my girlfriend, and she loved them. She was using them for
yeah,
I think she still got them somewhere. But a lot of other clients, you'll notice they do like diamond paintings, or they do artwork, or they
yeah,
just have another
yeah,
hobby. So one of the two changes that I've seen from you very fast, you realize if I sit in the house all day and I don't move my body, I'm more likely to overeat. So you got yourself
yeah,
outside, you got active, you made walking every day, you live in a lovely part of the world, Pickering in Yorkshire. There's a lot of
yeah,
nature, rolling hills and rivers and
yeah,
things like that. You've got a nice scenery, so you got out in nature a lot. And when you had that bit of spare time, you went, well, what could I do? What could I occupy my hands with, what my mind with? And you got creative with making these wax wraps. And that's actually, it seems so simple, but that is one of the best strategies that I see from all of my clients. I just incentivize them to get busy, just do something productive that you
yeah,
enjoy, and you'll find you'll get to the end of the day and go, oh, like I haven't even thought about food once today because you've just been occupied. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be
yeah,
busy, busy, busy to the point where you're burnt out and exhausted, but just get clear of what do I like to do? How can I fill my spare time? What can I do that's creative that can just take my mind off things? Because when you're bored, you're more likely to think about things, aren't you? So that was one of
yeah,
the best things that I've seen from you. You got very productive. You started moving your body again, so you got active, but you also become creative. So even if you were in the house
yeah.
on a night time and you didn't have anywhere to go, you had something to occupy yourself with, and that become very therapeutic for you, didn't it?
Yeah, it has. I mean, diamond painting you mentioned. I had started one and then I put it away. And I sat down, twiddling my thumbs, going scrolling Facebook and you know what, and eating while I'm doing it. And then I thought I have to finish this diamond painting. It's been there for ages, so I got this diamond painting out and I finished it, and it's turned out beautiful. And since then, I've done another diamond painting. And the non-negotiables, I never understood, but you have this as non-negotiables, and I didn't know them, but I do have. I do not negotiate my walking. I do that. There is no way I miss that because I know it does me the world of good. Just being in nature, just watching. I watched a deer. Flipping heck, I watched a deer. I stood there for 15 minutes and watched a deer standing watching me. And I
Mm.
wasn't bored. I watched a bird nest and the bird sitting. And for the last 4 weeks, I've seen this bird every day in that nest. And today was the first day where the nest was empty. The chicks have flown.
There you go.
And, them sort of things. I was blind to all that. And it really gives me a lot of pleasure to watch all that.
No, I love that. I love that, and it kind of reaffirms my theory of sometimes. Well, let's be honest. We'll use food as a dopamine thing. It's like I'm bored, or I'm
Yeah,
unhappy, or I'm lonely, or I'm disconnected, or I'm just going to eat something. We have to make it a mission of ours, a non-negotiable, like you said, to go out into
yeah.
the world and find little things to get enjoyment from. Because we always can't go. We can't. We might be able to go to Spain 1 week out the year and have a holiday, or we might go to a gig. I know
Oh,
you
yeah.
love your Michael Bolton gigs, things like that.
Yeah,
You might have your little things that you do once or twice a year, but if you're waiting for these big things that might happen, like Christmases, Easter's, holidays, then there's going to be large parts of the year where you're just like, well, what have I got to do? And that's where a lot of
yeah,
people get bored. They get out of a routine, they lack structure. So I love what you said about the non-negotiables, getting out in nature and just seeing the simple things in life. It can really,
yeah,
it puts you in a state of gratitude, and it just makes you appreciate the simple things, which then puts things into
yeah.
perspective. And yet you're just less likely to have a coping mechanism of food as a result of that, aren't you?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If I feel now, well, I had the message the other day. Are you up for a meeting? You know who? No. Why not? Just no. No
Can
explanation.
we can
I
we
was
talk
so
about that, Elga? Can we talk about the people pleasing? We don't have to get into specifics, but again, another thing I say, a lot of my clients, one of the first things I realize when they first start working with me, they are terrible at setting boundaries. They are people
Yeah,
pleasers. They often sacrifice
yeah,
their own time and energy for other people. So you don't have to get into
yeah,
specifics here, but one of the key things you learned was setting boundaries and putting yourself first, wasn't it? What sort of change has that now had in your
absolutely.
life?
Um, well, I feel happier that I'm actually able to speak up and say no, and no means no. And I never could do that. I was very easy persuaded to, um, oh, okay then, and I don't do that anymore.
Mm,
I'm now saying exactly as it is, and I did. I speak up and I said, no way do I go back. So bye bye.
yeah, I
And
think
yeah, that's the thing that I really did learn from you.
I think
Another
a lot.
thing.
I think a lot of women, Elke, struggle with guilt and saying no because they've maybe unconsciously, whether this is from childhood or from their parent, maybe the mothers or the grandmothers in their life, you might have grew up watching women completely sacrifice their self for other people around them. And I think a lot of women
Yeah,
are unconsciously placing their worthiness and how needed they are, how wanted they are, how productive they are for other people. And, I always say this, the needs you don't meet will cause you to eat. And so many of my clients reach out and say, Sam, I'm struggling with my food, or I'm overeating, or I'm binging. And I say, well, tell me what are you doing for yourself lately? Like, tell me one thing, one instance where you put yourself first lately. They often struggle to answer that question. And then when they open
yeah,
up about like, well, what's stressing them out? They're like, well, this person's asking me to do this, but I keep saying yes because I feel guilty and I don't know how to set boundaries and I'm people pleasing. And, I'm getting all this pushback from people around me. So it's just easier to go along with it. And then, hypothetically, if you go out in the world and just people please all day long, you come home and you feel so emotionally drained. Well, it's very easy to just think, I'm just going to eat to take the pain away. So a
yeah,
lot of emotional eaters are people pleasing. And one of the best things you
yeah,
can do to change your relationship with food is learn to say no, learn how to set boundaries, and learn how to deal with
yeah,
guilt. Because your
yeah,
worthiness should not be around how good you are for other people. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
everyone wants to be a good person. And this is not me saying you have to become this savage ice queen who never helps anyone, but you just need to know
mm,
how to balance. You got to put yourself first and then help others.
yeah,
It's the whole, you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got to give to
absolutely.
yourself first, and then you give your love and your energy to other people after you've looked after yourself. And that's one thing I witnessed from you, and it's not a coincidence. Your ability to regulate your emotions, to eat better. You're on your own weight loss journey from when you first started to where you are now. Tell me a little bit about that. In terms of the weight loss, that's a positive side effect of the exercise, the emotional eating
Yeah,
stuff that you're working on. It just
yeah,
happens automatically when you work on all of this, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is so nice to be able to wear jeans again. I fit into skinny jeans. I never fitted into them for years, and now I'm wearing skinny jeans, and yeah, it's amazing, really. I had to buy a belt because they were too baggy now.
Yeah,
So them sort of things, they really, really help.
yeah,
And we have got the bereavement cafe because I've lost Bob, and I struggled with that quite a bit. And so we have a bereavement cafe where I go the second Monday of every month. And that is another non-negotiable. I need to go there because there's people who've been through the same journey as me,
yes.
and helping each other. I mean, it's amazing how we help each other. And that's what I found also with you being the boss of your group,
Mhm.
right? You you've taught everybody so well that everybody is so supportive towards the other. I
Yeah,
mean, I still have got really close contact with Libby, one
yeah, yeah,
of your old clients.
yeah.
So we have still got really close contact, and interaction with other girls from the group. It's amazing.
No,
You
I
know,
really appreciate that. Yeah, that's the best part. Obviously, we do the coaching, so that's all on Zoom private calls together, like you
yeah,
remember. But two or
yeah,
three times a year, we do the in-person meetups, and they're really
that's the,
important. And to hear you say, like, mention Libby and a few other people, they're other clients of mine who are no longer on the program, but they still stay in touch. And then to hear you've
yeah,
made friends because of the community that you're a part of, that just blows my mind and makes me feel so
yeah,
grateful to think that I'm not just helping people with their eating habits. I'm creating a space where people come together and then it just naturally flows. We become
yeah,
friends, have, online contacts, but then we meet up in person and you stay in touch. And clients
yeah,
message me all the time from years ago. A client reached out the other week who I haven't spoken to in 3 years, and they're doing really well and just give me an update. And I
yeah,
was just like reading it with like tears of gratitude in my eye, thinking like, God, like this is amazing. So yeah, the
yeah,
in-person events, that's something that obviously you get on the coaching
Yeah,
program. You know, it's so
yeah,
meaningful to get the community together.
yeah,
It's much better than just doing, like I say, coaching online. It's a hybrid. It's in-person touch points and community, so you
yeah,
feel part of something, and then you do your private coaching as well.
yeah,
You know, so
yeah.
my last few questions for you, Elke, because you've been so kind to share some really good stuff today. What would you say to someone listening right now who's like, I'm an emotional eater. I resonate with your story, Elke. I struggle with emotional eating too. I've been to Weight Watchers. I've been to Slimming World. I've tried all the diets. I now accept that I need to work on my mindset and I maybe need to get some help. What would you say to someone who's like on the fence, who's like maybe knows they need help, but they're just reluctant to commit? Because it's very scary, let's be honest.
It is scary, but I would advise anybody, honestly, go for it, because what you learn, what you get, you can't put a price on it. You learn so much about yourself. It's not only about nutrition. I mean, you know me, I'm a bit thick in that respect. I know not to eat it because it has too many calories and that's it. But I mean, you learn so much with this program.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've learned so much over. We worked together 2 years. We had the full year, the one-to-ones, and then another year, hadn't we? And in those 2 years, I've learned more than I've learned in my entire life about life.
Wow.
Well, it's not to butter you up or so. It's because you
Oh,
have
please butter me up. I'm ready.
you
Butter me up.
you have this ability. You are brutally honest. You're brutally honest, but what you offer your clients is amazing, because I remember we met Luke Harrison
Hmm.
and his girlfriend,
Tracy.
yeah, Tracy Holmes. We met her, and they shared obviously their stories, and getting insight into other people's tragic lives and stuff. It's amazing, and you offer all that. It's a brilliant way to learn.
Hmm.
So
No,
anybody on the fence, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. Do it.
please do.
Everybody loves Sam Gibson.
Well,
Everybody loves
maybe
Sam
maybe
Gibson.
not everybody, yeah. But I appreciate that. One final question, Elga. What do you
Yeah.
think would have happened if you didn't make that decision to join? Where do you think you'd be right now?
Well, yeah, I would just I needed you. I really did need you at the time when you came along. I can't even remember how, but I did need this wake-up call, because I think I wouldn't be here, because I had such an unhealthy relationship with food. Eh, wa- eh, People have got no idea unless they are in that same corner as I was.
A lot of people are
Food,
without
food,
realizing
food.
they really are in that cycle. It's very
Yeah,
difficult. Emotional eating or food is actually the easiest coping mechanism to struggle with.
yeah,
And whether we'll label it as food addiction or not, I don't know. That's up for debate. But everyone knows the destruction of, let's say, alcohol or drugs.
yeah.
But food it's a slow self-sabotage thing. You don't see the destruction immediately, but over years and years and years, if you let it go, like I'm just going to be honest, you don't see very many overweight 90-year-olds, do you?
No, no. I do think that food is an addiction as well. I think it should be classed as an addiction.
Yeah, it can
I mean,
certainly become that. Yeah.
it's and these people all need some sort of help, like you do, of eating and stuffing emotions down. That would be great. If you could do that as well, that would be great.
Well, that's the message we're trying to spread on this podcast. Obviously, my book as well, Why You're Overeating, How to Stop for Good. You know,
That's a good book.
I wrote this book to explain, all of the things that I've seen in my 10 years of coaching. And of course, I talk about client stories and what they had to do to overcome to achieve their goals at weight loss and improving their relationship with food, but also my own eating habits as well. And like you said, I would agree with you that food can become an addiction, but these conversations
Yeah.
aren't talking about. People are just obsessed with weight loss, weight loss, weight loss, but they don't know what got them in that position to need to lose weight in the first place. And I think
Mm.
until you do the emotional work, which you've obviously done, and you're free to move on, and you're still getting results now on your own, um, the weight loss might not happen unless you do that work, right?
Yeah, that's true. You have to realize that um, you are you are sabotaging your life, literally, don't you?
Mhm.
When you
Yeah.
can't address the problem, when you can't don't try to solve the problem, you destroy your own life. And if I hadn't joined you, I think I would be now, I'm more than likely not be here, because I mean, all the sugar that I used to eat, all the goodies, I mean, Haribos and all this stuff, bags of them every day, just to stuff emotion down.
Yeah. I've been there
It
myself.
is an addiction.
Been there myself. Remember the Pop Tart story where I ate 50 Pop Tarts in one day after a
Yeah,
bodybuilding show because I just didn't know how to deal with like the come down of like, oh, I've got no goals now. I don't know what I'm doing. I stayed in bed
yeah.
all day and ate 50 Pop Tarts, and that might seem extreme, but people don't open
No,
up
it is.
about this. But so many
It,
people are also doing the same. Whether it's Haribo's,
yeah,
Pop Tarts, chocolate, it's very
yeah.
easy to become an emotional eater, and it's very hard to get out of
To
that
get
cycle
out of it.
without the right
Yeah,
help and support. So
yeah,
I just want to thank you personally for sharing today, Elke. And you are, I always say this, when you recline to man, you recline for life. You often stay in touch with me, you WhatsApp me, you see my posts, and you know,
yeah.
it's great to have you as a not just a former client, but now a friend. I know we could meet up one day for a coffee and we could just have a 3 hour chat about life and about all sorts, couldn't we? You know,
Yeah,
this has been
yeah.
incredible for me to witness your journey from when I first started talking to you to now, and then seeing you go off and smash it on your own. It's been a pleasure for me as well. So I want to thank you for that, and you're very inspiring.
Well, thank you very much for having had me for 2 years. It was the best 2 years for a very, very long time. And yeah, I class you as a friend as well. And I hope you and Jody one day will be in Pickering and we can go for a nice ice cream.
You pick the ice cream shop. We'll make it happen one day. Yeah.
Okay. All
Great.
right. Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much for
much,
your
Elke. Thank you
time.
very much.
Take care.